This is the Veritable Veteran Podcast, bringing truth and exposure to the struggles veterans and their families face post-military. Depression, anger, PTSD, suicide. Who am I? What do I do now?
Hey guys, welcome back to the Veritable Veteran Podcast. Yes, we do still have a podcast and we still exist. I've been silent for a little over a year on the podcast, and there's a lot that goes into that. And that's why I'm making this episode, because one, there's a lot of explaining to do. Two, we have new technology and new software that we're using, and now we're going to be full video, so we'll be on YouTube and Spotify for those who like to watch videos. You'll still be able to get the audio, just another added feature if you guys like to sit there and stare at me while I'm talking. Whatever, that's up to you. So, kind of getting into why we've been quiet on this podcast for the last year and a couple of months. So, as some of you may know, back in October of 2023, I had a pretty bad, kind of a nervous breakdown at work. I felt it coming on for a couple of days, didn't say anything. Then the day that it really hit me, I contacted my supervisor. First I called my wife, told her, hey, I'm not doing well. I don't know what's going on. I was honestly scared because I had never felt this way before. I didn't know what it was. I wasn't necessarily suicidal, but I was so overwhelmed by everything going on that it really scared me. I didn't want to kill myself, but I didn't want to live anymore, if that makes sense. I didn't want to do it anymore. I contacted a friend of mine. I contacted my dad, and we talked a little bit about it. And basically everybody said the same thing. You need to talk to your supervisor and tell them what's going on and take the day, at least one day off, and get it figured out. It should also be noted I had a change in my medication that I take for depression and anxiety. And I had increased the dosage on that medication, and it turned out to be very negative in the dosage change. So I contacted my supervisor, told him what was going on. He said, yeah, we want to get you better. We'll figure it out. We'll help you figure it out. Go home, take the day, just take a sick day. I'll cover, for you. I'll let you know. I'll let everybody know what's going on, but without telling them what's going on. Just let them know you had some stuff to deal with. Go home, get it taken care of. Which I did. I went home, scheduled an appointment with my therapist, scheduled an appointment with my doctor to get my medication fixed. And I called my supervisor and basically said, hey, I'm going to need Saturday as well, so I can get this figured out. So I took 2 days sick off of work. Got my medication fixed, talked to my therapist, got that kind of figured out. And I started doing better within the next couple of days. Went back to work. The next Wednesday on my next shift, and everything was pretty much fine. No issues regarding my mental health from that point on. In May it was April 2024. I had a disagreement with my supervisor. There's a lot of details to this. I didn't agree with the way things were written up in the counseling for the disagreement, which I agreed I should have gotten to counseling. I didn't agree with how the things were written in the counseling, because that's not what happened. I informed my supervisor it wasn't accurate. He didn't appreciate that. Got upset that I wouldn't sign the counseling because I didn't want it going in my personnel file as inaccurate. I didn't find out until much later on, that there is an appeals process for this. Basically, you sign it and then you go to the next higher person in your chain of command and you explain to them what your discrepancies are, and then it can be appealed. I was never informed of this until well after, and I mean, over a year after this happened is when I was told that I could have appealed it. And I didn't know that, so of course I didn't appeal it. So he got upset, kicked me out of the office, and basically complained to the lieutenant and filed a formal complaint, and I got put on administrative leave. While I was on administrative leave, it was determined that I would receive a written reprimand for the events that led to the internal affairs investigation, which I was like, okay, whatever. I really don't care. It's, you know, whatever. Slap on the wrist. I got it. Won't do it again. But that wasn't the end of it. They sent me on a request for a fitness for duty. It basically is that you have to get a forensic psychologist or psychiatrist involved to deem if you are fit to serve as in your job, whatever that job is, mine being a police officer. Kind of blindsided me that they did that. They brought up the events from the past October, which at this point was 6 months, almost 7 months in the past. And they brought it up and were like, oh, we didn't know about this. And now this combined with this is leading us to think that you may have some issues that need to be taken care of and you may not be fit to serve as a police officer. So understandably, I was pretty blindsided, pretty upset. I got my attorney involved. I got the fit for duty taken care of. They accepted it and they sent me back to work. There's more to that, but I don't want to get into that right now. I got back to work, was there for 2 months, and then was notified that I was being removed from the special response team, which I had fought to get onto. I was a part of, I had been training with. I was notified that I was being removed for issues regarding my use of sick leave. Was not talked to about this, was not asked to show evidence of why I was using my sick leave, because I had been using my sick leave because I was sick. I had been dealing with persistent medical issues, and I had made that clear to my supervisor. I had made that clear to the people on my shift that I don't know what's going on, but I'm trying to figure it out. So there were more misleading statements in the document that got me removed from the SRT, and I complained about that. Basically was told, well, we haven't done an investigation into your supervisor's allegations. We basically took his word for it. So again, was really upset by that because this same supervisor is negatively affecting my career again. Went out later that day and ended up confronting not a sovereign citizen and not a First Amendment auditor, but kind of somewhere in between. Claimed that he'd been a law enforcement officer for 30 years, claimed that he knew the law better than everybody, no matter who you were, was looking to get a reaction out of an officer. I was already pretty upset because of the events that happened earlier in the day, so he got a reaction out of me. Was not that bad. I basically told him he could effing wait for the supervisor because I had called for them. I told him he could effing wait. And then I called him a petty asshole. And that was about it. He went and complained to the PD. As soon as they got the complaint, they put me on admin leave and said, we're going to investigate this. At the end of that, I was found to be, how'd they put it? They combined everything from the past year or so and said that I needed to be fired because of it. So they fired me. Indefinite suspension. And before I was fired, I was allowed to present documents in my defense. I did that. That defense was basically ignored and I was fired anyway. So went ahead and I appealed it with my attorney. There was a long process. Anyway, we had the arbitration. We had the hearing with an arbitrator, and I won. They did not prove that they had enough evidence or justification to fire me. So I won and was reinstated. To kind of state the obvious, I wasn't going to go back to work there because obviously they didn't like me. So I resigned, was given my back pay, and everything else. So all that to say, that year from my last uh, my last podcast episode was May of 2024 through just now, and I mean like we received the back payment for my the time that I was supposed to be working like a week ago. So I mean this is just now coming to an end, and that's why I'm starting to get back into the podcast. I'm finally kind of feeling like my head is clear enough to get back into it. Um, After I got fired, I fell back into alcoholism pretty hard. I started drinking alcohol a lot when it was behind everybody's backs. I was hiding it, but I was drinking a lot to cope with the stress, and it did nothing to help me. I felt terrible after I was done drinking. I felt physically terrible, mentally terrible, emotionally terrible. I was less present for my children. I was less present for my wife. I was constantly hiding my breath, constantly hiding the way I was feeling and acting, trying to act normal. I wasn't very good at it. My wife pretty much knew that I was, but was trying to be forgiving because of what was going on, but also trying to get me to stop because I was being stupid. So January 8th was the last time that I had a drink. Until now, I haven't had a drink since January 8th. I got, again, heavily intoxicated at home. Thankfully, I just went to bed. I didn't cause any other issues during that time. And my wife talked to me and said, "You've got to do something. We got to fix this." And it wasn't the first time my wife had said that. It was the 9,000th time my wife had said that. And the difference was I finally felt like I don't want to live this way anymore. And ultimately, that's the only time things are going to change is when you decide you don't want to live this way anymore. Because until then, you could have everybody telling you everything from the medical repercussions, the mental repercussions, the social repercussions of what you're doing, and none of it matters until you decide that you don't want to live this way anymore and you want something better. And I finally had that moment where I was like, this is stupid. I've got to stop. So I got into Celebrate Recovery at our church, and it's a Christ-centered 12-step recovery program. It's it's like AA. It's a 12-step recovery program. I haven't gone through the step study yet. They haven't had one since I've been there, but I've been going to the weekly meetings. I've missed a couple here and there, but I've been doing pretty well going to the meetings. And they have a large group meeting, but then after that they have the small group discussion times. And that's where the work is done. Because they ask these pointed questions like, what is some trauma that you're hiding? What is a secret that you've been hiding? What is, and then there's more better questions than that even, but they ask these questions, then you sit down with a group of 10 to 15 people and you just discuss it. You don't have to, but they encourage you to. And the longer you're there and the more open and honest the people around you are, the more you feel like, okay, I can say something without being judged. I can say something without being mocked or looked down on. And people feel like recovery is just for hardcore meth addicts or hardcore alcoholics. There's people there that haven't touched a drug or alcohol in their life. And they're there recovering from trauma, from, sexual trauma or physical trauma as a child, or anger, bitterness, resentment, isolation, codependency, all this stuff. So it is absolutely, recovery is not just for addicts, because we're all coping with something. We're all using something to cope, to deal with what we're going through in life. And this recovery, it's really helped me open up and be open and see people that I never expected to see in a recovery program. Sit there and talk about, yeah, I deal with pornography. Yeah, I deal with, perfectionism. I deal with procrastination. These guys talk about, like, I wake up in the morning and I don't want to do anything. I see all the stuff that has to be done and I just sit there and stare at it. And then eventually, the day's over and all of a sudden I haven't done anything. So it's not just addiction. They have specific addiction classes, they have specific addiction groups and things, but a lot of it is just people trying to fix them, not fix themselves, talk to others about their issues so they can realize, hey, I'm not alone, and then get some good coping mechanisms to help deal with what they're going through. So I've been going to that since January. Been really beneficial for me and my family. I got my medication adjusted again. My medicine that I've been on for about 13 years now, it kind of plateaued, which they can do. It's an SSRI. They can plateau and stop working for you. I got onto a different SSRI. It seems like it's working well. I'm still kind of in the 4 to 6 week window, so we're still waiting to see. Actually, I think I'm just outside of it now. Either way, it seems like it's working well, so I'm pleased with it. But again, medication's not the solution. Medication is a tool to help reduce the symptoms while you figure out what's truly going on. With me, what's truly going on right now is bitterness and unforgiveness towards my former employer and my former supervisors that I feel like I was targeted by. And man, I have a lot of resentment and bitterness built up inside. And I've been talking about it with my wife. I've been talking about it with my dad. I've been talking about it with my friends, and even at the recovery group, I've been talking about it as well. Just because it's such a persistent issue in my heart and in my mind, and it's affecting my kids. It's affecting my wife. It's affecting my health because I'm just stressed and I'm constantly just uptight and angry. And I mean, and it comes and goes. I have really good days. I have some days that I'm kind of like, and then I have days where I'm just in the dumps. So, and this is just something from me personally to you guys listening to this. I'm not perfect and I have not figured it out. And I want you guys to hear that from me. I absolutely have not figured out how to live life constantly in a good mood and constantly like perfectly healed. I'm constantly every single day trying to heal more from the stupid decisions I've made, from trauma that I have, just from the military, and even things like from my life as a child. I have two amazing parents. My parents are some of my best friends. My dad is arguably my best friend. I talk to him every single day. We do things together all the time. I cannot complain about the relationship I have with them. But my dad wasn't perfect. My mom wasn't perfect. No one's perfect. So are there things from my childhood that I still deal with? Yes. Yeah, there are. Not nearly as much as other people though. So it's not really my childhood stuff, but there are things that I'm still dealing with. But it's a daily thing. It's every single day I have to wake up and decide, hey, today I'm going to take a step forward. I'm going to get better. I'm going to do something that's going to make me better. And it's, again, I haven't figured it out, guys. I promise you, I'm in the same boat as everybody else. Or maybe, I don't really like that analogy necessarily where I'm in the same boat. We're all on the same river. I may be a little bit further down the river than y'all, which means I understand what's between me and you. But there's a lot of people that are a lot further down the river than me, and they understand a lot more than I do. I feel the only thing that I have going for me is I'm willing to talk about it, and a lot of other people aren't. And that's what I want you guys to understand is we have to talk about it. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean you got to get in with a therapist. That doesn't mean you got to get in with a psychologist or psychiatrist. We've got to find someone to talk to. And that's hard because you don't want to trust anyone and everyone with this kind of intimate knowledge of you and your mind. You can't trust everybody. Don't trust everybody. Don't. That's a horrible idea. What I'm saying is We've got to find somebody. So don't give up. If you haven't found that person you can talk to or that group of people you can talk to, don't give up. The nice thing about a recovery group is it's all confidential. They don't tell anybody who's there. They don't come up and greet you at Walmart and be like, hey, I saw you at Celebrate Recovery, or hey, I saw you at AA, or hey, I saw you at X, Y, and Z. How are you doing? Like, they don't do that. There's literally rules against that. And they have, like, if you do that, you can get in trouble with the group. So they don't do that. If you talk to a psychologist or psychiatrist, it's all confidential unless you say, I'm going to go home and put a gun in my mouth, or I'm going to go home and murder my family. Unless you say something like that, everything you say is confidential. So just understand that. So you can be open. You can be honest. So again, talking about it. And that's what I'm trying to get people to understand. And I understand. I have, it's kind of a double-edged sword, because there's guys that I've talked to that have said, I went to get help and now I'm on light duty because the Marine Corps doesn't trust me around weapons and ammunition. So my career could be really negatively affected or even ruined. My answer to him was, I don't have an answer for you, because that shouldn't be the way it is. But they also have to make decisions based on the good of the organization. I'm not telling you it's the right decision. I'm just saying that's where they're coming from. My other answer to him was, you have to decide what's most important: your career or your family's well-being, and your well-being mentally, emotionally, and even physically. And it's not an easy decision, because if you go to get mental health help, you should not, in my opinion, lose your job. You should not be targeted because of that. But is it going to happen? It happened to me. Do I agree with it? Absolutely not. But I had to make a decision as to what was best for me and what was best for my family. So, as hard as that decision may be, that's part of it. And I've talked to some guys recently just that really opened up to me about some stuff they're dealing with, and people that I didn't expect to hear that from. And I need you guys to understand, you're not alone in what you're dealing with. You are absolutely not alone. And there are people that want to help, that are willing to help. And guys, we've got to get better. We've got to tell our story. We've got to talk about the wounds that we have, that we've ignored for the last 5, 10, 15, 20, 50, 60 years, however long. We have to talk about it, because when we don't talk about it, the other guy doesn't talk about it. And that guy may go and find a permanent solution to this temporary problem and end his life. So you talking about it could save somebody's life. You talking about it could save your life. Me talking about it has saved my life. And I've had people tell me that, me being open has helped them heal. And I'm not saying that to pat myself on the back. I'm saying that because it brings me so much joy to know that me being honest and open is helping somebody else. And if you're struggling, talking about that, it helps you and it'll help somebody else. As veterans, we have a lot of us deal with the loss of purpose. And you got to find what's going to fulfill you. One way that you can start helping people is sharing your story. Find a platform to talk about your story. This is a perfect platform. I've got another chair over here. I've got a microphone, a camera, microphones, speakers, all the stuff we need for you to tell your story, either here in person or on a video call. And I'm not the only one that does that. There's a lot of other podcast platforms bigger than mine that you can do the same thing. And a podcast may not be the thing. In person at a coffee shop may be the thing. At a church group, at a recovery group, at a veterans group that meets on a disc golf course while you guys are playing disc golf, going to the gym with another veteran. But swallowing your pride and talking to them openly, honestly, and just as raw as you can, and saying, hey, you're not the only one dealing with this, because I dealt with something similar. And saying to them, you can get help and you're not alone, because I dealt with this and I did this, that, the other, and now I'm doing better. You do not have to be healed to start talking about it. I wasn't healed when I started. Back in 2018, when I started the Veritable Veteran Facebook page, I was not in a good place mentally. I was a raging alcoholic and I was super depressed. Hated everything about my life except for my family, but at that point it didn't feel like that was much consolation. I hated waking up every single day. I just couldn't stand it. But I started telling my story and pointing out to people that, hey, I'm hurting. And if I'm hurting, somebody else is hurting. So I'm going to share my story so I can try to help them. And by doing that, it saved me. And I don't say that lightly. I don't say that like, oh, it saved me. No, I'm telling you, if I hadn't started talking about it and sharing it openly, I would be dead. Because I was at that point a couple different times. And I don't like admitting that. I don't like admitting that I was very close to ending it and permanently affecting my family negatively. Permanently. There's no fixing that. There's no coming back from that. And I was very close to going down that road. And this last year was extremely hard for my family and especially for me and my wife. But being open and honest with you guys on my page has helped us immensely. So when I'm posting things, it's helping me too. And I love the community that we've built. I love the group of people that we have and the comments and the messages and the support that I get. It's amazing. And I love every one of you guys for being here. And I know some of you guys are just here for the funny videos, and that's okay too. But it's been amazing to see the support that we've had come through this page and through just this platform that we have. And I know I'm kind of off track as to why I've been quiet, but this last year was really hard, but we've come out of it stronger. And now that I don't work at that place anymore, I'm able to do this full time. And God has me where he wants me. God has me here doing this because this is where he wants me to be. And I'm aware of that now. It was his will for this to happen. And while I didn't like going through it, and I'm still dealing with the repercussions of it, I understand that it's what's best for my family and for me. And I may not fully understand why, but I'm trusting that God knows what's best. And I'm trusting that he has what's best in my interests and my family's interests at heart. And he knows, the Bible says he works out all things for the good of those who love him. So it's going to work out. I just have to trust him. And that's the hard part. But, I've already done a couple of different interviews. I'm going to have those episodes coming up here in the next month or so, or next couple weeks. I need you guys to be willing to share your story, for you and for everybody that listens to this, because this podcast doesn't reach millions of people. It doesn't even reach thousands of people. But I know it reaches a few people, and a few people have contacted me and told me your podcast and your page have really helped me. And I know that by getting your story out there, you could help someone too. And it takes a lot of courage to be open and honest and raw in front of a lot of different people. But I'm telling you, it's healing for you, and it's freeing for somebody else, because they start to understand, man, I'm not alone. And it's very positive in all aspects. And just a quick story. I was selling insurance, and I know I talk about how much I hated it, but I had a couple of chance encounters that God really used in a positive way. One in particular, I met a gentleman out in the boondocks of Oklahoma at a feed store, and I went inside and I talked to one of his employees, and his employee was some punk kid who was just rude. And he came out of the back office and basically yelled at this kid for being rude. And he started talking to me, and I could see in his little office was a TV, and it was playing some old military movie like Bridge Over the River Kwai or something, some old military movie. And he just had the whole office was just lined with military DVDs. And I asked him if he was a veteran. He said he was, and we started talking about it. And I went in and I sat down in his little office, and this office was a closet that he had turned into an office. And it was tiny. So we're sitting knee to knee in this office with this movie playing in the background. And he starts telling me this story, and it's one of the wildest stories I've ever heard. I'm praying that I will be able to get him on my podcast one of these days to tell his story again, because it was astounding. He was in Vietnam. He was a POW, and he had a very heart-wrenching story. And at the end of it, I stood up and he stood up, and he gave me a long, solid hug. And we sat there and we just embraced. And I could feel him start to tremble a little bit. And when he let go and he kind of pulled back, and he had tears in his eyes, and he said, "I'm going to cry pretty hard tonight after bringing all that up." And I said, "I'm sorry." And he said, "Don't be. The more I talk about it, the better it gets." And he said, "So thank you for giving me someone to talk to and listening." And that is why I do this podcast, and why I host people to interview them, is to give them that therapeutic release of telling their story, explaining what they did in the military, explaining the things that happened to them, both good and bad. You have a story to tell, and I want to hear it. And there's, I don't know, a lot of people that want to hear it as well. And this wasn't supposed to be a call for more guests on the podcast, but I guess it kind of is now. I want to hear your story. I'll listen. I'm not going to try and fix your problems. If you ask me for advice, I'll give it to you. But most importantly, I want you to be able to tell your story in a safe place where you're not going to be judged. You're not going to be looked down on. And I'm going to support you through it. So I would love to have as many of you come on this show as possible, so we can get rid of this idea that, I'm the only one suffering and I'm the only one struggling with this. And the way we do that is by talking about it and sharing our stories with each other. So if you want to be a guest, go to theVeritableVeteran.com. There's a podcast link. You fill out the podcast guest form and just shoot it over. It sends me an email. I read through it and I'll contact you and we'll get a date scheduled. And then, usually we run for about an hour, hour and a half. And, the last guy I had was 2 hours because his story kept going and he wanted to keep telling things. And I was like, just keep talking, man. Just tell me. I'm here to listen. If you go for, a long time, we'll break it up into a couple different episodes and it's fine. I want to hear it. Because everybody has a story and everybody deserves to be able to tell it. So, but again, this episode is just kind of explaining where we've been. And we're back and we're going to start posting episodes weekly and we will, we'll see where it goes. I'm looking forward to where this is going to go. I'm looking forward to the interviews that I've already done and the ones that we have scheduled. And I'm really excited to get these stories out there. So I hope you guys enjoy the upcoming episodes. And if you want to be a guest, again, go theveриtableveteran.com, fill out the guest form, and you can be on the show as well, and we'll get your story out there. So, all right. I love you guys.
Hey guys, quick reminder, if you enjoyed the episode today, don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, go to whatever platform you listen to these podcasts on and leave a review. That's the best way to help us out. It gets a lot more traffic to us. So again, if you liked it, like, subscribe, and leave a review. All right, love you guys.